Well, it turned out I was right about not feeling very well last night. I woke up this morning feeling full of cold. Is what it is, isn't it? Today, I want to talk about some of these recent things that have been happening in the alternative media. A story sort of exploded about these scientists and people involved with effectively what's being called UFO research, plasma research, and most recently, uh, David Wilcock has been kind of brought into that story as well. Now, you have to be really careful, you know. Like, one thing I've noticed as the years have gone by is that the alternative media is quite obviously controlled to a large extent, especially if you like, the mainstream alternative media. I think David calls it like the mainstream alternative media. And stories just seem to get released and they seem to get promoted, you know. And then, you hear everyone having strong opinions about them and going down rabbit holes that kind of go nowhere. And I mean, it's so obvious to us that are kind of, you know, thinking that, of course, they would control the opposition. And it's blatantly obvious that is what has been going on for a while. So I was a little bit suspicious when this story first started getting spread all of a sudden overnight everywhere, and linking a lot of deaths and disappearances all under one umbrella. Now, I'm not going to say that I know exactly what's going on. Okay, I don't. It's just, but this is my sort of opinion at the moment on it. And it's possibly a slight alternative to what's kind of being said generally. So a lot of people get excited, you know. They see these stories and they think, I see all these guys, they're all involved with UFO research and the government or someone is taking them out, you know. It's like, okay, possibly. All right. But then you have to wonder, like, with the way that they are reacting. So, that story got well promoted and like got promoted from sources in the alternative media that I know are controlled. So nobody was saying anything that wasn't being allowed to be said. And then you had Trump like come out and say, "You're right. We're going to look into it." You know, all these guys that worked for NASA and JPL and all this kind of stuff. You know, and it's like, okay. So it started off in the alternative media, and then like the mainstream media have taken it on board, and are now, you've got the president commenting on it and saying that a full investigation is going to be launched, and it's like, okay. And I've said to you before, just about everything that you ever see coming at you through the different platforms, mediums, is part of the control system. Always has been. I know people are waking up to it, but it hasn't changed, and there's no way they would let us all have like the internet the way we have if it wasn't under their control. I said to you the other day that, as I've been asked onto bigger podcasts, I've realized that there are control systems in place about what can be said and not. So I know it firsthand. Now, with these people, some of it to me seems a little bit loose, as in the connection between them. So just for a moment, let's just imagine that there really isn't the connection that is being, like, promoted. Okay, that there's just a number of different things that have happened. Of course, some of these people in these kind of sensitive jobs and that way may well get murdered occasionally for saying doing the wrong thing, and it'll, behind closed doors, who knows what's going on. Some of them have disappeared. Some of them have taken their own lives apparently. But it could be that that is the case. That some of them have taken their own lives, and some of them have gone missing, and some of them have been murdered by different interests. Like you say, it could be foreign interests or whatever. And it's interesting how a lot of them came out sort of saying that they definitely wouldn't kill themselves, like, in the weeks or days leading up to their own demise. It starts to feel like a controlled narrative. You can't know anything these days. You can't even know if they're actually dead. We've seen that happen before, haven't we? Like, with the shuttle explosion, where it turns out the astronauts were still alive, and we had it over here with London 7/7 bombings, and it turned out some of them were crisis actors, and all these kind of things that keep coming out, where they don't even always kill these people, even when they're promoting that they have been. And of course, with people with specialist skills and knowledge, like some of these scientists and stuff, you can assume they have some value to the control system, which they wouldn't get rid of them unless it was absolutely necessary. But what I reckon could be happening, and what might sort of like come out in the next weeks, months, whatever, is that this could be being used to further the false narrative surrounding UFOs and aliens. Did you notice how a number of the people that went missing in exactly the same circumstance as David Paulides from the Missing 411 that's been promoting over the years? And then his last documentary was basically claiming that it was all to do with aliens. So I'm wondering whether there's a chance that when the official federal investigations are released, that they'll try to say that it has got something to do with UFOs, and that it has possibly got something to do with, extraterrestrials. Because there's so many different angles now, which I can see the false narrative moving forward in its agenda. And it's going to culminate, you've got that Anna Paluna woman, haven't you? Like, sort of like, with saying about the time deadline gone past, but there's all these, there's video footage that's going to be released and stuff, and that's going to happen soon. And I'm wondering whether they're going to say that some of these guys have, well, they might even say that they've been taken by the aliens themselves. And that would lend me to think that they're going to try and create the negative story that the aliens have like basically taken out some of our best scientists, because there's a threat coming or whatever, and they're doing this because of that. So yeah, I wanted you to just like always be able to take a deep breath when we're hearing these stories in the alternative media, because they more often than not are turning out not to be what they appear to be. Very often, I think they're turning out to be distractions in order to get people that have got one eye open to be, like, say, following rabbit holes that go nowhere, or arguing amongst themselves about details, and basically keeping us busy and keeping us and stopping us from right action. So yeah, but if it turns, it could be a really interesting story. You know, it could turn out that they're going to say that this has got something to do with this UFO disclosure. There's another possibility that just kind of flashed through my head, that it could have been that these people would have been capable and credible in coming out against a narrative that was about to be made public, and that they were kind of renegades, and that they were going to say, hey, this is not aliens, or I've been working on this, or I know firsthand, that this is not, it's not what he's saying or whatever. And they needed to be silenced. I say not necessarily killed, but disappeared. There's plenty of underground bases where these people could be utilized. So, if one of the interesting things I found when looking at David Paulides' work was that a lot of these national parks and stuff where these people go missing generally sit on top of deep underground military bases. And you can assume they've got plenty of access to the surface and plenty of technology to render a person, harmless, and to do things to people before they have time to react and all that kind of stuff. Anything's possible. So we have to sort of I enjoy looking at the alternative media as much as anyone else does. But these days, I watch it pretty much with the same eye that I watch when I watch the mainstream news. If I watch that, because you've always got to kind of be reading between the lines. But nevertheless, interesting times ahead, I think, because you can see the foreshadows of it all. It is all going somewhere. So, yeah, it's something to think about, guys. Okay, I hope you're all well. I will be posting up the podcast tomorrow night that I'm on, SNX Radio. I think it airs at around 9 o'clock UK time in the evening. So it'd be nice if if you wanted to jump on there and watch. And I won't be selling any lies or telling any mistruths. And I'm going into these areas where sometimes these people don't really want me to. But I feel moved that if my integrity is at stake and the integrity of what I want to do is at stake, then it's a non-compromise, I'm afraid. So take care, and I'll see you tomorrow.